Welcome to episode 138, How Graphics Sell Things.
Nice.
Nice?
Well, or we wouldn't be doing it.
I guess. So I'm Paula Williams.
John Williams.
And we are ABCI, and ABCI's mission is...
to help all you folks out there in the aviation world sell more products and services.
Absolutely. And so today we're going to talk about how graphics will help you do that, right?
Of course.
Okay. So first of all, I wanted
graphics.
to start with exactly... bad graphics won't help you do anything. Instagram, and Instagram was this little thing that started as burbia.com, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was actually kind of a local social media platform that had graphics as a secondary optional component of it. They had decided to go into the graphics business just about 18 months before the sale, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of crazy. So there are three reasons that Facebook decided to do this. One is they wanted a mobile audience, and people on a mobile device have smaller screens. They're not going to read all day, and so Facebook knew that it was kind of text heavy. A lot of people were typing their statuses into Facebook at that time. They weren't using the graphics features all that much, right?
Yep.
Okay. The second thing is that Instagram was scrollable, searchable, and shareable. So if someone is looking for a particular image on a particular topic, so let's say that you really wanted to decorate for a kid's party, right? Or something along those lines. Facebook is really hard to see what people have done, in that kind of an instance. But on Instagram, you can look for kids' party decorations and find millions of ideas, right?
Which relates to business how?
We'll get there.
Oh, okay. I'm just asking.
Right. And then the third thing is that they wanted to focus on photos first. So they wanted to increase the number of photos that people were putting on Facebook. So they did not, which is kind of weird because a lot of things Facebook bought with the intention of killing, right?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't kill Instagram.
Nope, they did not.
Right.
As is evidenced by the fact that it's doing well.
Exactly. And I think it's because they had some things to learn from Instagram and from people's use of Instagram and from the data that they were getting from Instagram and Facebook above all else. I don't know if anybody knew this in 2012. I certainly didn't. That Facebook is really in the data business more than anything else, right?
No kidding.
So the way that people scroll, search, and share photos and the way that people scroll, share, and search images gives us a lot of really great data on what images get searched and shared, what images people click on, what people share with each other. Those kinds of things are integral to business because if you want an advertisement to get out there, you want it to be something that people interact with and that people respond to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now we got a ton of data on what people actually click, share, and respond to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, did that answer your question? How it relates to business?
Yeah, it started down the road.
Okay, let's see if we can continue down the road. Okay, so why is this important? Says John. Okay. We talked last week, and in addition to this week, it's really hard to earn the attention of busy people, right?
True.
You agree with that?
Yeah, if they're really busy.
Okay. It is hard to resist a compelling image. Do you agree with that? I've seen you stop and turn back pages when you're paging through an aviation magazine and you see a picture that stops you in your tracks. I've seen that happen. You've gone back 2 pages because something said, wait a minute, what was that? Right? Or I'll be scrolling through something on my iPad and you'll say, wait, what was that?
That's true.
Exactly. It's hard to resist a compelling image, even for you.
What do you mean even for me?
Well, a lot of people will say that aviation consumers are resistant customers. They're resistant to advertising because they don't respond to images as easily as some other people, very impressionable youngsters, for example. But I've seen it happen. I've seen you do it.
It's very, right, but it's very, very difficult to get the right image.
Yes, it is harder. Right. So we'll talk about that some more as well. So if you can catch somebody's eyeballs and make them scroll back 2 pages to see what it is that they think they missed, then that will earn the attention for the next thing, right? So if the first thing is a graphic, the next thing is the headline. So if the graphic catches your attention, you will read the headline. True?
Mostly.
Okay. If the headline catches your attention,
then you read the article.
You will read the article.
Paragraph or whatever.
Is that true?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. If the article catches your attention, you might take some action with it.
Possibly.
Right. So if there's a call to action.
More possibly than any other way.
Than if you hadn't read the article. Exactly. So that call to action has a much better chance of working if you get there via the article and you've had some background information stuck into your head by reading the article, right?
True.
Okay. And then that leads to a sale, potentially.
Well, yeah.
Okay. So obviously you're going to lose some people at every stage along the way, but the tighter your connections are from the graphic to the headline, headline to the content, content to the action, action to the sale, the more likely you are to make a sale, right? Mm-hmm. And it starts with
the graphic.
The graphic is the very first thing. It's the very first step in that equation. You seem dubious.
No, I'm thinking.
Okay. Cool. You're going to counter this at some point, which is fine. We've got probably a good 10 minutes left in the podcast, so you can get there if you want. All right. So what makes a great graphic? Last week we talked about stories and we talked about the rule of 3. So today we're going to talk about the rule of 1. And the rule of 1 actually comes from a story about Steve Jobs and his chief of marketing. Steve Jobs was actually trying to convince him that we needed to put more data into a particular advertisement. And saying, well, there's this feature, but we also need to include this and this feature. So he wanted to put 3 in a particular advertisement. And his marketing director said, no, we have to focus on just one thing per commercial, right? And this is back when they were doing TV commercials. So, but it uses the same concept as graphics.
Right. And that's an interesting story about that whole thing, too.
Right. You can only communicate one thing with an advertisement. And this is even more true of a graphic because it's even simpler than a 30-second advertisement. So Steve Jobs, in his Steve Jobs fashion, was being difficult and was arguing and everything else. So his advertising director wadded up a piece of paper and threw it at him. And Steve Jobs instinctively caught it and said, great, now catch these. And he wadded up 3 pieces of paper and he threw them at the same time. And Steve Jobs caught none of them. And he said, that's my point. You got 30 seconds. You can only make 1 point. They will catch it if you only throw 1. So, true of 30-second TV spots, truer of an advertisement. Agree?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, so back to Instagram. And this works not just on Instagram. It works on Facebook. It works on LinkedIn. It works on the featured image for your blog posts. It works on brochures. If you have a single image on the cover of your brochure, it's 1,000 times better than trying to make 50 points at the same time, and so on. Any piece of advertising that is delivered in one serving, right, can deliver one piece of information. Everything else that is connected to that is supporting, so you can have more in there, saying ours is the best option. That might be your single point. Mm-hmm. And then you have 10 points underneath that explain that, if your medium supports it. So if you give somebody a booklet, you can have a 10-page booklet with the 10 reasons that our thing is the best. But still, you only are communicating one thing, and that is that our thing is the best, right?
Right.
Okay, so here's some examples. Okay, so this is a picture, and this is from SSC. The picture communicates one thing, right? Your vacation time is precious. Your grandkids, you don't get that much time with them. You want to have a good time. Grandkids and private travel. And it leads to an article, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so the connection between the graphic, the headline, the article, if you're a grandparent and you're looking at vacation time and thinking about how you could make the most of it, you're likely to click on that image, right?
True.
Okay. Here's another one. This one is a particular model of challenger that is entering the scarcity market because of the number on the market versus the number sold, which is an unusual thing given what's going on in aircraft sales right now.
True.
So Gene Clow, Great Circle Aircraft, does a market update every month, and it has great data if you're in the aircraft market, but it can be kind of dry. It's tables of data, right?
Yep.
But if you're in the market for this particular aircraft, this is going to catch your eye, right? It communicates one thing, and that one thing is the one thing that has changed between last month and this month in the market, and that is that there are a couple of models of aircraft that have entered a scarcity condition, this being one of them. So, one image communicates one thing, leads to many other things, but that's supporting data, right?
Yes.
Okay. This is the most complicated image of the ones we're going to show you today. So you got a lot of words, and this is probably more complicated than I would ever put on Instagram, but I did it for a reason. There's a quote here that supports the main point. There's a headline here that supports the main point, and there's a graphic here that supports the main point. The main point being, hopefully, it's easy to grasp, right?
Yep, they've had an increase in traffic.
We have seen an increase in traffic, right? So it is a complicated image, but the image communicates one point. And that point hopefully will lead people to click on it and see the data, and then go into the, how we did that and why it matters to you, and, all of those things. So once again, it's hard to capture the attention of busy people, but it is hard to resist a compelling image. And one thing earns attention for the next thing, right? So every one of these images has one purpose. This is a difference between, I'm going to call it direct response marketing and brand marketing, even though this is a simplification.
Right. Oversimplification.
Oversimplification. So advertising execs are all going to scream at me for saying this, but the very simplified point, is that if you have a graphic that doesn't lead to the next thing, you haven't done any good. They would say brand awareness is a value in and of itself.
Yeah,
I think
if you're the size of Coca-Cola.
Right, exactly. For most of our clients, they can't afford brand awareness without taking the next step. You can't afford to produce a great graphic with no purpose behind it.
No.
Right? You have to lead them to the next step, which is a great headline, which leads to great content.
True.
Which leads to a great call to action, which leads to a fantastic salesperson who is able to inspire confidence and take the next step. Right. Any one of these steps is broken, you've wasted your graphic. It could be the most beautiful thing in the world, doesn't do you any good, right?
Same thing with websites.
Same thing with websites. That is true. Well, websites are just a method of delivering graphics and content, really, and interacting with customers. So, all right. So sources for this one, Gene Clow, Great Circle Aircraft. Thank you for inspiring this conversation, because of a conversation that we had. Taylor Greenwood. I actually just heard from Taylor recently. He read a book that I gave him 10 years ago and said, I finally read this. Thank you for sending it my way. I'm really inspired. I'm going to do something now. So thank you, Taylor, for doing that. Ryan Holiday, Growth Hacker Marketing, that's our book of the month that we're reading right now, had some really good information on this. And Brian Neal from the Personal Branding course from the Advanced Selling podcast. So all great sources of information, and thank you for inspiring this episode. And if you would like to talk about your graphics, maybe you have some great graphics that just aren't connected to the rest of your marketing system, or maybe you need some great graphics to tempt people to take the next step. Either way, we'd be happy to help. Just click the Let's Talk button on the lower left-hand corner of our website, right?
And that doesn't necessarily mean we'll talk at that point, but you can make a date.
Right, absolutely. So pick a time from our calendar that works for you, and let's sit down for half an hour and talk about what you need and how we can help, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So thank you for joining us, and have a great week.
And we'll see you next time.